Donald Trump is panicking as Iran is threatening his life. Iran is threatening him in response to Donald Trump saying, if you don't agree to the ceasefire on my terms, we're going to invade the Karg Island. We're sending Marines there. Get ready, Iran. And Iran saying, bring it on. And they're posting memes and AI videos and mocking Donald Trump. For example, they posted this meme right here through their state regime media in Iran. They write, to American soldiers, come closer. And it shows a casket right there by the Strait of Hormuz with an American flag on it. Also, you have Iranian regime media and others in Iran and cartoonists in Iran posting memes like this, mocking Donald Trump for Trump saying that Iran is giving him great gifts and presents and it makes him happy. Take a look at this cartoon right here. Trump, Iran sent me a very valuable gift. And for those listening on audio, it's a photo of Iran giving Donald Trump a gift where an Iranian soldier is kicking Donald Trump in the face. You also have Iranian soldiers taking photos of themselves on Karg Island. For example, right here, Iranian soldiers in underground trenches on Karg Island are posting photos and stating that they are ready to repel any possible U.S. landing by those Marine Expeditionary Forces on their way to Iran, as well as the 82nd Airborne Division and the elite paratroopers attached to the 82nd Airborne. They're saying, we're ready to go in Iran. Judging by the photo right here, the Iranians have already received their FPV, those first-person view kamikaze drones produced by potentially Chinese companies. You'll see right here they have the video antennas as well, and you can see the videos that and the photos that the Iranians are posting in these trenches as they are ready for war. They're ready for the invasion. They said that we've been preparing 2 decades to fight the Americans on our soil. Let's go, is what they're saying. And I just fear that Donald Trump, with no plan and his recklessness, is about to send our troops off to a very, very bad situation. I'll tell you what they're saying in Israel right now. This is an exclusive right here that Nadav Eyal posted. Exclusive. Israeli security officials are saying the following. The option that Donald Trump is talking about of seizing islands in Iran, whether it's Karg Island or others, or the Strait of Hormuz itself, is complex and fraught with danger and would likely trigger massive Iranian attacks on energy infrastructure, the laying of mines, and in many cases, severe escalation. So behind the scenes, what Israel is saying is if Iran refuses Trump's ceasefire plan, and in any case escalates attack on regional energy, that the Trump regime and Netanyahu should threaten and carry out strikes causing extensive damage to Iran's energy infrastructure, civilian energy infrastructure, and not immediately execute a ground operation. Israel's been saying that they believe that their operations could potentially take over a year longer, and that this could be a very long-term war indeed. You have Moshan Razi right here, a senior military advisor to the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khomeini, posting the following and saying the following message to Iran regime media. If their air power, the United States air power, which is their main force, has not yielded results, what are they expecting from a ground operation? Are American soldiers ready to die for Israel? I guess we'll see. You see how the Iranians are taunting Trump, threatening U.S. soldiers right here, saying, bring it on. And again, as an American, why are we in this war in the first place? Other than the fact that Netanyahu told Donald Trump that they were going to be greeted like heroes in Iran, and that Netanyahu said that he was going to invade, so Trump better invade with him or else Iran would strike back at Donald Trump. And so that's why Donald Trump rushed our soldiers into war. Let's take a look at what the Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi is saying. Here's what he posted. No nation in history has stood for nearly a month against the greatest nuclear armed power on earth and stopped them from achieving a single goal. This is a point of pride for all of humanity. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi says there are no negotiations taking place, and he says the following to Iranian state regime media. There are no negotiations. The fact that they are now talking about negotiations in the United States is an admission of defeat. Didn't they say unconditional surrender? So why are they now mobilizing their highest officials to negotiate, right? The Trump regime's like, we're sending J.D. Vance to Pakistan. And what they're saying in Iran is, well, as long as we get to control the Strait of Hormuz, as long as you remove all of your bases from the Middle East, as long as you agree never to attack Hezbollah, never to attack Iran again, you stay out of Lebanon, you stay out of Iran, as long as you apologize and give us full reparations, then we'll be willing to have a conversation in the first place. So all of these analysts here in the U.S. were like, oh, we're having these productive conversations. No, we're not. I think it's important that you see what they're saying in Iran as well, because in Iran, they feel that they have the upper hand right now, while Donald Trump's like, they're totally obliterated. There's no leadership there. It's total chaos, right? We learned yesterday morning that the way Donald Trump is getting briefed on this war is they're creating 2-minute hype reels with videos of things blowing up. And that's how they show Donald Trump that Iran is being obliterated, but they're not explaining to him apparently that Iran has just more extreme people in those leadership positions. Sorry, let me keep reading what Foreign Minister Araghchi continues to say. Araghchi says, for countries we have identified as our friends, we have allowed them to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This includes China, Russia, India, Iraq, and Pakistan. There is no reason to allow our enemy to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The enemy must learn a lesson, never to dare attack again, and the damages to the Iranian people must be compensated. International guarantees are not 100% guarantees. The intrinsic guarantee we have created ourselves means no one dares to go to war with the Iranian people anymore. So far, no negotiations have taken place, and a ceasefire without guarantees is a vicious cycle that repeats war. I mean, Trump saying, let's do a 30-day ceasefire, and Iran saying, why? You've run out of your munitions. You've exhausted your munition stockpile now for, 3 to 8 years? So you want a ceasefire so you can go back and try to build up. Why would we do that? And that's the reality. The United States reserves munitions are basically eaten up for the next 3 to 8 years, according to a lot of the analysts out there. Araghchi says, many foreign ministers in the region have now been contacting Tehran, and Iran's stance has been principled and firm. The war clarified many facts. One, that is the basis not only failed, that these military bases by the U.S. not only failed to ensure security of the host countries, but they themselves now became sources of the insecurity for a lot of these countries. Earlier yesterday as well, there was a briefing in the before the House and the Senate. There was a briefing before the House Armed Services Committee, and even the MAGA Republican Mike Rogers criticized the Defense Department for not giving lawmakers more info. We want to know more about what's going on, what the options are. Why are they being considered? We are not getting enough answers at all right here. And meanwhile, MAGA Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace posted 3 consecutive statements opposing the deployment of ground troops to Iran after walking out of a House Armed Services briefing, and she basically made it seem like a ground invasion is imminent. Nancy Mace goes, Washington's war machine is hard at work. They are trying to drag us into Iran to make it another Iraq. We can't let them. I will not support sending South Carolina's sons and daughters to war in Iran. I won't do it. President Trump has been enormously successful so far, I'm sure. Sure, Nancy. But we cannot allow the Washington war machine to turn Iran into another Iraq. Just walked out of House Armed Services briefing on Iran. Let me repeat. I will not support troops on the ground in Iran, even more so after this briefing. Aragci posted the following in response to this story about how Donald Trump's been getting those hype videos that were those 2-minute videos that show Iran getting bombed by the United States and Israel. And here's what Foreign Minister Aragci writes. It is said that Edward Bernays, a pioneer of mass persuasion, served on Committee on Public Information and worked to help Woodrow Wilson rally Americans for war in Europe. When he and Walter Lippmann met President in 1917, they reportedly said, "We can sell the war to the public." More than a century later, little has changed, except that now it seems the war is being sold not once, but daily, even to the president himself through carefully curated videos. What's going on with Iran's parliament yesterday? Iran's parliament moved toward formalizing their plan to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. The head of parliament's civil commission said Iran is pursuing legislation to formalize its sovereignty, control, and supervision over the Strait of Hormuz and introduce tolls for ships passing through it, creating a new source of national revenue, according to Fars. He said a draft has been prepared but has not yet reached the full proposal stage. Lawmakers aim to send it to Iranian's Parliament Research Center next week for legal review before advancing it once sessions resume. Under the plans, vessels would be charged for transit in exchange for security, with the official arguing the strait should be treated like other international corridors, like the Suez Canal, where tolls are routinely paid. So when Donald Trump's like, they're so obliterated in Iran and they don't have any leadership, dude, they're meeting in various committees in Parliament to recommend different pieces of legislation and then having their working legal group review it right now. The bottom line right now is that Donald Trump got into this war, an unlawful war, without explaining the goals or objectives. This is already a disaster. This is further escalating. Donald Trump and his regime and Caroline Leavitt, they show up every day. They lie to us. You want to talk about some of the damage being done in addition to the fact that $2-3 billion are being spent on this war every day, probably more. And now Trump wants $200 billion more for this war right on the eve of this ground invasion. Well, here is what we learned. Just the U.S. Air Force losses alone in the war. We've lost 1 F-35 damaged by Iranian defense, 3 F-15s, 1 KC-135, another KC-135, 5 KC-135s, 12 MQ-9 Reapers, 1 UH-6 helicopter. We showed you that photo of the FPV drone that was in the Camp Victory in Iraq. By the way, Iraq is on fire right now in a bad way. You have the Shiite militias there were targeted by Netanyahu and Trump. They're now responding by targeting American bases. Lots of sectarian violence in Iraq. Iraq is spiraling out of control as well. And it looks like the war is really being brought to Iraq right now. So not just Iran, Iraq, frankly, the whole area. I mean, extending out through the Caspian Sea, right, which is kind of this linkage point between Russia and Iran as well, where you have Russia basically they are sending drones and supplies to Iran to kill Americans and to prepare for the invasion of Karg and to attack its neighbors. At the same time, the U.S. is releasing sanctions on Russian oil. Russia's giving Iran all the weapons right now. Like, it's obvious. According to the Financial Times, citing other officials briefed on the matter, Russia is preparing to send a phased shipment of drones, medicine, and food to Iran. The deliveries began in early March, and it's in the process of being completed right now. And when you think about it, remember we learned that, last week or so, or in the past, earlier today, right? Israel struck a node for the Russo-Iranian trade networks in the Caspian Sea. So there were strikes in the Caspian. The war is spreading all over the region at this point. And I just think, again, that's not getting enough attention. And that's why we cover it here at the MeidasTouch network. As I mentioned earlier, The U.S. interceptor stockpiles depleted by Iran war could take 3 to 8 years to replenish. It's a big problem. Big problem. One other thing I'll point out as well, as Adam Johnson said, once again, U.S. media is casually reporting the Pentagon's use of human shields. So here, the New York Times details how U.S. troops are hiding in civilian office spaces and hotels because they don't want to be vulnerable or are too close to the current front lines. Here's the article. Iran's attack forced U.S. troops to work remotely, and it's saying how right now the war in Iran has made all of these bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Iraq vulnerable to the point now where American service members can't really live or work there for extended periods of time, military officials said. So basically, all of those military bases in the Middle East right now have been abandoned by American soldiers who are now in hotels and other areas. Just letting you know what's happening in the region. Okay? We may not like to hear that, but that's what's happening in the region. This is not the story that you're probably getting anywhere else. And the same way 5 years ago I was reporting on the Epstein files, right? The same way I've been reporting on the tariff and the trade war before, like lots of people were covering it. You know, the same way I would talk about Trump's deteriorating health, the same way I would say all these red flags, and people would always say in the past, oh, MeidasTouch, you're being hyperbolic, I'm trying to, I love our country, okay? Like I do. I want our country to be better for my daughter and for future generations. That's what I want more than anything. And so I view the ultimate patriotism, speaking the truth and calling all of this stuff out. You know, I want our troops to be safe. I don't want to be in this unlawful war. This is weakening us for generations right now. Not to even mention how it's impacting us and our economy, and people can't afford things here. Anyway, and the human toll, of course, all around, and the war crimes being committed by the United States and Israel, and the deaths being, and the attacks by Iran in the air. It's horrible. It's horrible. I hate war. Why are we in this war at all? Why do we invade Netanyahu? It's so horrific. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.meidastouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.meidastouch.com.